What is good, YouTube? And today I'm going to be showing you guys a team you guys can use for Aurora if you're trying to get into it, or if you're trying to even speed up your runs with Ninfoniel. Ninfoniel is super good because she has like the double attack buff with some sustain with her shielding and her healing. Even though her healing isn't that great, her shielding is very important to mitigate the damage because there's a lot. A lot of people aren't actually using her, which I'm pretty surprised about. I think more people kind of just have this notion that she's only used for like one shots and speed clears, which is kind of true for the most part. You'll see that Jodox is still rank 1 here with his insane rank 1 clear with bat speed, but basically she can be used in floor clears if you actually have the setup, and most importantly if you have the speed tuning. So I'm going to show you guys the team here. Basically the way you want to run it is with just the characters that you have on your team and your account, obviously, but I'm going to show you guys a pretty free to play friendly option. So we're going to be using Lingluo, we're going to be using Nell, we're going to be using Viper, we're going to be using Ninfoniel, and then Diting. So the DPS spot, Diting is by far the worst option out of everything. If you have anything like Yelly, if you have Lilium, which are LD SSRs, which you might not have, or if you have some blue DPS such as Rosa or Giada or even Sybil, the R unit, they're just way better than Diting here because Diting doesn't hit enough, and because of that he can't reduce the stacks on the boss, which makes you take a lot more damage. So those characters I definitely recommend. And also Giada has a defense break, Rosa has the follow-up attacks, Yelly has a defense break, Lilium just does insane damage. So there's just a lot better characters you can bring. But I'll show you guys this team with Diting because even though he's the worst option, I want to show you that the worst option still works in the setup. So basically you're going to use Lingluo as your healer. She's pretty much a must-have in every single Aurora team. Chiaki is okay if you're one-shotting, but Lingluo's sustained healing for this fight is insane. And for her speed, you just want her to be before your DPS. Now you're going to see my Lingluo is pretty fast. So basically, if you want to make your runs more consistent, the easiest thing to do is just make your Lingluo faster and faster. That's because she needs to cycle to heal off Cursed Shield. And even though, the biggest mechanic is getting off the Cursed Shield so you do more damage, you're going to see that if you actually don't one-shot the boss, it just does a lot of damage over time. So for that reason, you want her S1 maxed out to give you like pretty much double the healing, and you want her as fast as possible because that way you just cycle very quickly and just heal as much as you can. Now for her modules, it's pretty simple. You just put her on Swift Rush. You're gonna see I have a Evil Guard on her. It's not required. What you actually want instead is Cure. Evil Guard gives 12% healing. If you look at Cure here, it's even better. It gives you, I think it's 25%, so it's double the effect, so it's a lot better. I just don't really have a Cure setup because I don't farm Teramaton ever, so if you guys have Cure, it's just better. And then your right side modules, just anything to make her tankier. You don't really have to worry about her ever dying because she's blue and the boss is red. So if you have to only run like 1 HP percent and you have to run like random pieces, like you can see I'm on F-Res here, and this is pretty useless, it's only for the speed, it's fine. You just have to make her fast and on Cure or Evil Guard if you have to downgrade, but Cure is definitely better. For your shell, you want Supernova. This is pretty much required. This will make it so that when she S3s at the start, this doesn't actually take off Cursed Shield, even though you have her go, first. But the the heal over time, so the hot that applies from Supernova and the healing empowerment allows you to get it off. And also, with this shell, it doesn't really matter for the first and third passive. Third passive, the best option is actually Synergy to actually speed up the runs if you want that. But the second passive, you want Vibrancy. If you're really hurting to meet the speed requirements, Shadow Rush works as well. You probably don't need Vibrancy if you're on Cure, but if you're not on Cure and you're on like Evil Guard like I am instead, you're gonna need Vibrancy. But like I said, if you're on Cure, just run Shadow Rush and it'll be fine. It'll make building her a lot easier. Now in terms of the next unit to go, it's going to be Viper. So you want Viper to go second because you want him to actually dispel the boss. Honestly, you can have Lingluo go after Viper as well. It doesn't really matter. You just need her to go before your DPS. But, Viper still needs to be fast. He needs to be either the fastest or the second fastest. He has to go before the other 3 characters. That's because he has to dispel with his S3. Now for lattices, I recommend just maxing his S3. S2 is also very good to max because it just makes you take less damage and you counter more. But eventually you will want to max him out entirely because he is extremely strong in PvP. And in Rengokutsu, he's also very powerful, and he's just a very strong character in a lot of PvE content while being a top tier unit. And basically just run him on a full effect accuracy setup. with Swift Rush. You can see I'm just on 12 Swift Rush. You don't really need a second Matrix effect activated. I have Time Weave for the extra effect accuracy, but just go full effect accuracy, pretty much as fast as you can get him. I have him on Artisan to make the runs more stable, but you can run him on a different setup if you want. It's not really required. Jackal Guard works, Gigabyte works, just anything is fine, but Artisan is going to do some extra sustain, even though it probably won't go on the characters that you want. So that's the Viper build. Now for Nell. So Nell, you're going to want to max her S3 and S2. Kind of required, right? You need the extra healing at the very least from level 4 on this S2. And the CDR is just one lattice away, so you might as well get it because it'll make your runs a lot more consistent. And you want your S3 to at least be level 4, but like I said, you also want it maxed. You don't really need to get the CDR on the skills at level 5 if you don't want, because you're going to see we run her on Time Weave. But by getting this level 5 on both, you will make the runs a lot more consistent. S1, definitely not required, but I know some people like to max it because it gives you extra speed, which makes her easier to build. But basically, you have her go after your Viper, and pretty much the same setup, just full effect accuracy and speed. And you're going to want to run her on Jackal Guard. So the reason why I have her on Jackal Guard is because the way Nell functions in this run is you S3 to apply vulnerable and give everyone speed up. And then after that, you want to actually lap as fast as you can so you can push up your DPS with your S2. This S2 will push up your DPS so you get an extra attack in essentially, and the faster you can get her to go right after your DPS takes its first turn, the more value you get. So that's why I have Jackal Guard, because it gives you this initial 25% turn meter. The speed buff doesn't really matter at all, but I just do it for the turn meter, and it does decent damage as well. And the extra attack actually counts as an attack to reduce the stacks on the boss. So that is the Nell build. You'll see more, like when I show you the run, how this Jackal Guard works on the opener, but it's a pretty crucial part of the build, I'd say, to make sure your runs are very consistent. Now in terms of your DPS, you just have Dieting, you just put them on full damage. You don't really care about anything else too much. Basically, whatever DPS you run, you're going to run them on probably a Kenai Fury Edge setup if you're running like Dieting or Lilium. If you're running a Revelation setup like Yelly, you can run Onslaught as well, or even Harvest Fury is okay. I wouldn't really run Momentum because this team only has 3 debuffs, so it's not really that much value. But Onslaught works, Harvest works, right? Just make sure you're running Fury Edge if you can. Swift Raid's okay as well, but like I said, because you want Nell to go as soon as she can right after your DPS, Swift Raid's kind of wasted because you don't really need the speed because you have pushing from Nell. But it does work as well. But you'll see, the damage is all you need on your characters. Whatever you build, just bring what you have. Like I said, Dieting is the worst DPS option of everything that you can bring. If you look at like the other runs, even though he's used in one-shot runs, for slower runs, he's going to make the runs super slow or just not be as consistent, right? You'll see a lot of Rosas here. You're going to see Yellies. Giada is very good as well. Giada also works very well with Ninfoniel because she gives her 3 buffs. So her passive actually activates right away, which is very, very good. It gives her stacking damage and CDR. But you'll see like Dieting is not really used in any of these teams because he's pretty bad here, I'm not going to lie. So there's one team here, I guess, but without Lily, if you're using Dieting, you're going to see that it's very hard to not only just kill the boss, but get the stacks off the boss so he doesn't like double hit you on some bad timing. So, and now I'll show you an Infonio build. I know I made it sound like I was going to show you the run, but I was rendering the video and completely forgot to actually show you my Ninfoniel, which is actually hilarious. So this is my Ninfoniel. So basically the way you want to build her is 113 in lattice. So you don't have to lattice her S3. So if you actually look at my other videos where I showcase her in like Sharon, Inferno, and Rengokutsu, I don't have her S3 latticed, but you might as well do it anyways, right? It just gives you extra damage. I know some people actually have her S3 maxed, which I think is a good investment because she's really good in these like speed clears, and in PvP, she's actually seeing a lot of play, and I think she'll see even more when people invest into her because her S3 is so powerful in cleave, and also in bruiser matchups, it's actually very strong, which is pretty surprising because you'd think attack buff is pretty dead. And her S2 is just amazingly, amazingly strong in those matchups for characters that get focused. But yeah, kind of went on a tangent about PvP. So for this build, 113 is going to be, I think, the minimum. I tried to get by with just keeping her at 111, but I was like, I might as well just put 2 lattice because she's such a good, flexible character in a lot of content. And she is going to be on a pretty easy setup. easy setup. So basically you just make her go right before your DPS. You don't want her to go too fast because the shield actually gets eaten up by the boss's AoE. So what you do to actually prevent this is, because your DPS won't ever die on the opener with Lingluo using S3, you're gonna put her on a slow build. So I actually like Wellspring. Honestly, I'd run 12 Wellspring, but I don't actually have a Wellspring piece that actually has HP bonus. So if you guys do, just slap it on and run 12 Wellspring. It'll make the shield a lot bigger on her S3 because it scales with HP. And basically, you just make her go right before your DPS. So I have her at 122 plus 87. That is 209. My Diting's at like 190-ish. So she goes right before. And you want to put her on Codex so she reapplies her S3 twice. You can actually try her on like a Time Weave Swift Rush build on like a slower team and put her on something like a Gigabyte. I've tried that as well, it works, but you know, with this team comp, you might as well put her on Codex and play for the extra burst because it just speeds up your runs. But a slower build on, not a slower build, but a faster build on Swift Rush Time Weave on like a different shell will work as well. But yeah, that's my Ninfoniel now. I'll show you guys the run. You can see how it works. You're going to see that the damage that she actually provides with her buffs and the sustain that she actually provides, although it's not as good as Lingluo, is actually pretty decent as well. So you'll see that she's pretty good. So I'm going to show you guys the team now. I'll show you guys a more faster team if you have access to other units, but this one is going to be the most free-to-play friendly. You only have Ninfoniel as a unit you have to pull for off a banner. The other ones are either free from an event like Lingluo after 7 days, or you get the other ones as SR characters. So the run pretty much plays out like how we said. Lingluo will heal off the shield from pretty much everything. And basically after that, Viper will then strip the buffs and put the debuffs. Then we apply Vulnerable, and then Jackal Guard will push my Nell. And then you'll see Ninfoniel puts my shield, and then with the super attack buff, Diting goes into the boss and does a decent chunk of damage. And then Nell goes right after with the Jackal Guard to allow Diting to get another hit in. So here, you're going to see that my shield is still up, and that's mostly because I have some lattice into it, but you can reapply it once it goes down so you get an extra turn of the extra damage. You can see it doesn't break, and we're going to do more damage here. And then here the boss is going to start doing damage to us, but we have Ninfoniel to heal some of the shield off. And then Nell will S3. This is mostly going to be to just give us speed buff now at this point. And then Viper will go again, and then dispel the boss to make it do less damage. And then we will heal the Diting. He'll heal off the Whale Prayer and do even more damage here after cleansing off the Cursed Shield. And now Lingluo will go and heal us with her S2. And now after this point, you're kind of just spanking the boss. You're not going to really be able to get any big burst windows off. Depending on your speed tuning, you might be able to kill the boss a lot quicker if you can make it so that you can heal off the Cursed Shield. But sometimes you're going to end up having your Diting actually hit the boss with Cursed Shield still on him, which will make him do a lot less damage, right? Which is probably going to happen here, because Nell's S2 isn't up. So here, I think it's a S1, yeah. But on the next turn, Nell will push him up, and then we will kill with the S3, you'll see. And now the S3 goes into the boss, and it is dead. So you can see, you know, Ninfoniel's shield really speeds up this free-to-play team because you just get a ton of damage, but, you know, at the price of getting a ton of damage, usually you have to run like a dedicated buffer like Lily or like Beyontin, which has 0 defensive capabilities. But Ninfoniel has the shield, of course, the immunity to stop the debuffs from the boss, and even has that somewhat okay heal on her S2. If you lattice into it, it's really strong, but mine's at level 1, and you can see that the run is pretty clean. So I'll show you the slightly faster team. By slightly faster, I mean it's going to be really fast, but not like a one-shot, but basically you swap out Nell for Yelly, and you want her to go right before Diting, and she can apply defense down, and if this lands, the run speeds up by a lot. The win rate won't be as high because you're giving up Nell's speed buff and also her healing, to actually allow your team to cycle. But for the most part, if you're farming like during 2x, this team comp is going to be pretty good if you care about burning a lot of, energy and stuff like that. Because Yelly, if she lands this defense break, you kind of just destroy the boss. We do land it. She's going to land it more often than not because she hits so much. We get good RNG, Yelly gets a lot of damage in, and you can see the boss is super low, and that's mostly because Ninfoniel buffs your damage so much, especially for Revelation users that scale off attack. And you can see we re-shield, and the boss is going to die the next turn, which is going to make her, a very good character for killing this boss. We do lose the defense break, but I do believe on the next turn cycle we should kill here. Curse Shield is going to be applied, so yeah. Obviously, if you get Lilium instead of Diting as well, you can kill the boss even quicker if you have, a different character as well. Instead of your Yelly, you can probably make like a faster clear. This is the run that you probably want to do during 2x. You can see my Yelly does die at the end, but it is a fast run, and it's going to be less consistent, but still, something you could do during 2x if you want to speed through stabilizers. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video though, guys. You can see Ninfoniel's very good in Aurora. This is like the one area of content where she's actually pretty decent if you're not one-shotting the boss. She does actually speed up the runs by a lot, and she kind of just takes the Valerian spot. But like I mentioned, if you want to run her in a slower team, just look at the first run, sub out Diting for like Giada or something, and the runs will be super fast, and you'll see a lot of success. But yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.